We are pre-seasoning on ACC Baseball Etc. Happy to be doing so, talking to all 14 ACC baseball coaches. This is our second of such conversations. I'm Daron Vaught. Hi, welcome. I'll introduce our coach guest. If you're not watching and you're listening rather and can't see him, the big reveal will come shortly. ACC Baseball Etc. is presented by Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. The easy-to-use and affordable technology makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics, all the features used at the highest level. See pitchlogic.com for more information. As I welcome in North Carolina's Scott Forbes, a couple of things that just housekeeping issues we need to get out of the way. If you are watching on YouTube or X or wherever, D1 Baseball, we are streaming this as ACC Baseball Etc. as part of the D1 Baseball Network. You're probably noticing my video is a little bit different. I am in what I believe to be the worst lighting hotel room situation of my entire life. So I'm making do with what I have, Scott. I've got a little desk lamp here. It is gloomy. I'm in downtown Philadelphia, so I feel like it's gloomy everywhere as we're recording this. Otherwise, I think would have some pretty good natural light from a tall window over here.
There's some bad weather right now, that's for sure. What hotel are you at?
It is the Downtown Marriott in Philadelphia, which is a very impressive hotel. Very impressive. But I currently have a light out in my the hallway entryway of my room, and that's not helping matters.
I was kind of worried about you, but now you've explained it, I'm not as worried, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm safe. I promise. Okay. He is Scott Forbes, the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. It is our preseasoning conversation, so we're going to get into the Heels and what they're going to look like here in 2024 as we are recording this. You guys start practice tomorrow. Exciting times. You seem to be pretty fired up this morning as we were talking before we started recording, Scott. Is this the time of year that you get fired up for? You're not anxious waiting for 6 weeks to pass?
Yeah, I think if you're coaching and you're not fired up this time of year, you don't need to be coaching. You know, we had a staff meeting yesterday, just our coaching staff, and just like I just told them, like, I'm as fired up as I ever have been, and I hope that's going to continue to be the case. And if I wake up one morning and that's not the case, you won't be talking to me. That's just my philosophy. So, you know, wake up and attack every day and do it again the next day is awesome. You know, I'm humbled too to be able to do it, you know, to lead a program like this. And but again, like you said, of course, you're extra fired up when you know that tomorrow classes start, practice starts, and you're playing another uniform in about 5 weeks.
So you and I have gotten into sort of talking about your journey as a head coach over the past handful of years. Is this day, or I'll say tomorrow, for first day of practice of the spring, is that any different now? Like, is part of you being as comfortably fired up, just the experience of it, right? Like maybe you're not as nervous as you might have been year one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, anybody that says they weren't more nervous. I mean, you know, when Coach Fox retired, you know, unfortunately, I was named the head coach, and basically the next day I'm meeting with the team, and we're also in the middle of COVID. You know, it just started, so we're, you know, your head's spinning, and it doesn't stop spinning really for that first year. But to say more comfortable, yes, I don't ever want to get comfortable. I think it's important not to be too comfortable, because you got to always strive to get better. But it is like anything else. The more you do it, the better you feel about it. And you don't know until you know. Being a head coach, if you haven't been one, it takes a lot of time to learn different things. And I've been so lucky too, because I've been around, you know, so many awesome head coaches that have helped me, and I can rely on them. So, but really for me, it's even more like, I still don't lose the wow. Like, this is kind of unbelievable to me, you know, like, whoa, like I'm the head coach at the University of North Carolina, and I don't take that for granted at all.
Yeah. There's something to be said for, like, and you hit on it just now. There's a comfort in being uncomfortable about it still, right? Like you never want to be comfortable to the point of complacent. And that's obviously what you're talking about there, but it's more of an understanding and an embracing of
you embrace that
we're going to do some uncomfortable things.
For me, it's 365 days a year. It's going to be on your mind when you're doing something like this, and that's okay. You embrace it, and you know that that's part of the job, and you just have to learn to manage it because you have stuff on your mind. But for me, it's good stuff and stuff that I enjoy doing. And the ultimate challenge every year is you have a new team and how to help that team reach their goals. So we're excited about that.
Yeah. Well, you and I spoke just before Thanksgiving. So we talked a little bit about fall ball then. I do want to get into some specifics about this team coming up. I'm really excited about the 2024 edition of the Tar Heels, just from what I've collected and gathered about your guys, and there are plenty of returning players as well. What do you think is going to be the I don't want to X factor for us broadcaster types? We hate cliches. X factor feels like a cliche, Scott. What's the thing that, like, if it happens in the way that you want it to for this team, that's going to be what allows it to sort of turn the corner, whatever that might be for you?
I think the more talented team that you potentially have, the more the team and everybody has to be able to manage, the fact that there are going to be some good players that may not be on the field all the time. So really, for not every team, I know it's cliche, but it's got to be a team deal, to have something special happen. And we just watched that a lot, when we were watching football, and that's what separates the best teams is the team concept is always at the top. So that would be number one. And then, number two is, I feel like the pitching depth can be something that can be a huge strength for us. And we're hoping that will be the case.
I'm so glad to hear you mention the college football. I assume you're sort of loosely referencing Michigan winning the college football playoff national championship, and so it stood out to me for all. This is more of just like a big picture sports coaching observation, but for all of the grief that Jim Harbaugh gets, I was very pleased with all of his post-game conversations with interviewers and stuff like that. And it's because, not that you can't be about the motivation piece in a more competitive sense, in a more combative sense with the opposition, but everything that guy said was about, we did it for each other. We're a family. We love each other. Like it was so. Not that we've never heard that before, Scott, but it was so refreshing to not hear somebody, make up, oh, they counted us out, oh, whatever, right? Like, you hear all kinds of post-game stuff in that regard. And it, like, hearing his conversations with several media members, it struck me. It was just like, man, like that's the ultimate motivator, and that's what it's about, and that's what it should be. And not that it directly reminded me of you and the way you coach your teams, but you mentioning it just now, it sort of made that connection. It's just like, anytime I talk to you about successes or tribulations with your team or whatever, it's about the team and the guys doing it for each other. And you spoke to the chemistry with the talent, or aside from the talent, just a minute ago.
Yeah, and it's easy to have that chemistry in the fall, because everybody's playing. But when you start playing other uniforms, you got 9 in the lineup, 1 on the mound. So guys have to remember, okay. I mean, and I heard an interview from Jim Harbaugh, but I pay attention and I love sports. And obviously I would be an idiot not to pay attention to the coaches that have a history of sustained success. And that's, for me, that's what I respect the most. I mean, obviously we all want to win a national championship, but these teams are there every single year. even though Michigan hadn't won a national championship in forever, which tells us all how hard it is.
Yeah.
They've been really good. Coach Harbaugh's been back there a while. You look at so many great football coaches, basketball coaches, but the ones that have sustained success, it's clear that they have really high standards and they have a really high culture, but their best teams are like what Coach Harbaugh said in that interview I heard him. This is just a ball team. This team is like the old school ball team, and that's what you're hoping. And our best teams have been the same way. Obviously we have a lot of talent on those ball teams, but those guys like the Andrew Millers and the you can name all of our high draft picks that have come through here. They're great leaders in the team, and them trying to reach their goal, win a national championship came first, and they got rewarded for that. And I firmly believe in that. So, it's important, and you have to manage that now more than ever. There's a lot of different things going on with social media, NIL, but it's still, there's nothing better. I'm going to talk to our guys today, our first team meeting, about there's nothing better when a team comes together and they're all working for the same goal, and trying to accomplish that goal. And you hope, you put in the work, maybe you have a shot to accomplish it.
I've got one more big picture, touchy-feely one before we get into some specifics. I know you love my big picture, touchy-feely stuff. So first preseason rankings earlier this week came out. You guys garnered one. Perfect Game came out, and you're in. I know typically when we talk, it's like that stuff doesn't matter, right? And ultimately it doesn't. What I'm curious about, though, is after a year where, and I think you would agree with this, that last season you guys did not accomplish everything that you wanted to accomplish in the ways that you wanted to accomplish them. In a year when that happens and you've got so many key pieces coming back to the team, can it be like validating to be placed in these in a good way in terms of the confidence of your guys heading into a season?
Yeah, I've kind of changed my view on rankings. Our goal is to be ranked number one every year. I think that's a good goal. Yeah, you got to figure. You manage the expectations, but obviously we've had some teams here like 2011 we weren't even thought of. We weren't ranked, and we won 51 games. So, yeah, it's great for our programs, great for our guys. They know, though. This group knows, and the better teams know. And it depends. Some teams see the rankings, and they're like, we're way better than that, potentially. So, you just got to kind of find the pulse of your team. But it's flattering to be talked about and to be ranked. But you got to do it on the field. We all know that. And the rankings changed throughout the season. I look at the year before, 2022, we were preseason ranked, started off like a firecracker, then we couldn't beat anybody, then nobody could beat us. And that's the unique thing about baseball is there's so many games. You got to manage the season. But I would say in baseball, the preseason ranking is probably, I think you can put a little less into it than some of the other sports potentially. And obviously we can go back at the end and look. But at the end of the day, I tell our guys, because I've been in that dugout, and unfortunately in 2006, 2007, there's only one team the last day of the season that's happy. And you know that. So you got to concentrate more about the journey and enjoying every single day, and there's more to it. But it's great to be ranked. But for me personally, like, whatever, that's great. And get on the field and practice.
All right. Now we'll get into specific baseball things about this team. I think the one player that is understandably most intriguing to those who follow the sport is Vance Honeycutt. It's for obvious reasons. I don't know that anybody is able to fully appreciate his game as much as you, because you see it every day, but I'm probably right up there with you. Maybe we're both top 5 in that regard, Scott. We talked a little bit about his performance in the fall. You mentioned journey. What do you observe about the journey of Vance Honeycutt and sort of he battled through a lot last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That raging start the year before as a Tar Heel. In what ways has he grown as a person?
It's funny you said that. I was in my office, getting ahead a little bit the other day, and I hear a knock on my door, and Vance walks in, and we just sat there and visited for almost an hour. And, I got home and I was just thinking, I'm going to just enjoy being around him every single day. That tells you all you need to know about him, because I love being around him. He just has that great personality to be that talented and really, a generational type player. I can coach a long time, and I think everybody that writes everything about him, I guess I saw he was third team All-American, and, I think he's the best player in the country. And I'm not going to change that view, and he's going to go out and show it. And I'm not putting pressure on Vance right now, but to have a kid to do what he did, to put up those numbers his freshman year and then play last year and play well, I've only taken him out of the lineup maybe once in his career, to change the game for us defensively, to cut back on his strikeouts. Didn't have as many RBIs and home runs, but, had a bad injury, and we were playing pretty dang good. We sweep state, and then unfortunately his season's over. So that was a tough pill to swallow for him, but he's worked since that day. He's back. He feels great. But, man, you don't see many guys, Daron, with that type of size, speed, ability. He's a game changer, but he's also a changer for us in the locker room because he leads by example. We just made the dean's list, phenomenal student. But in reality, this probably will be his last year at UNC. Maybe not, but in reality, it probably will be. And I'm just going to soak it up. I'm going to enjoy watching him play. I'm going to enjoy watching him take BP. He practices hard. He plays hard. His maturity too, you've seen. He's a pretty mature kid when he got here, but now he's more mature mentally, obviously, and he's grown physically, but he hadn't lost any of that speed. So I'm excited for him. Our team's excited to have him back, and I'm just going to write his name in the lineup and keep my mouth shut and hop on his back. That's what I need to
do. I don't want to get stuck on Vance Honeycutt, but just one more question. You talk about his physical development, which is impressive in and of itself when you're battling injuries for the majority of a season, right? I mean, it's hard to make headway in that regard. What kind of progress have you noticed in that? I mean, I think I can see it when I call games. He might even surprise me this year the first time I see him, in that I would imagine he's gonna look and feel a bit bigger and stronger just based on the last time I saw him. He was ailing.
Yeah. Well, part of when you have an injury like he had is your core has to get stronger, and that was the focus to start with. And he's not lifting heavier weights, maybe like he did in the past. He's a football quarterback, but he looks like he has been. So it shows that, the training for today baseball players, if you do it the right way, you're going to get strong in the right areas. He's already just big anyway, tall, physical, long, lean, but he looks great. And you'll see it when you see him. His bat speed's good. And, I'm just excited for him that he's healthy, because that was tough. When you play every single day, you sweep your rival, you get ready to go on the road and play at Coastal. You're at Coastal, you're at Clemson, you got the ACC tournament. At the time, we had a chance to host. And then get the news that you can't play, much less against Coastal or Clemson, but you're out for the rest of the year. It's not easy. He had tears running down his eyes. He walked to the weight room. He told me about the results, and I felt for him because he's such a competitor. I felt more for him than I did our team. Because it's just a tough when you work that hard. You want to help your team. I felt bad for our team as well, but it's good to have him back. We're excited about it.
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled for him to get another crack at it. So looking forward to seeing him for the first time this year, no doubt. Some others that look, I said this to you in the fall. I'm intrigued by the mix of returners. Newcomers that you guys have. I know a little bit less about the rotation, but in terms of the lineup, you talked about the depth earlier. I mean, that again, if things go the way they should, that's going to be a really good problem for you to have in your position player group, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So like,
that's a good thing.
Yeah. What would you break that down for us and sort of
I feel like the lineup could be a good mix of speed, power, and also be able to defend at the same time. We feel great about our catching, even though, it was a big loss using Tomas because he's a great leader for us and caught every day for 3 years. But Luke Stevenson's a special kid to be able to get on campus. Most of those kids don't make it to campus. And got transferred from Elon. Parker Haskin, it's a 5th year, that is also extremely good, both on left-handed hitters. So we're excited about that. And you go around the horn, it's going to be a battle, but you got Vander Brake back, who played every day for us. You got Alex Madera, who looks like right now he's going to play shortstop, a transfer that looks a left-handed hitter that can really, really run. But you also have Colby back. You got Castagnazzi back. You got Stokely. Those guys battling to get on the field at the corners. But they're battling a guy like Parks Harbor that transferred from Georgia that had, I think, 16 or 18 home runs and almost 70 RBIs in the SEC. You got Alberto Osuna back, healthy. He broke his hamate, last year. He had 20, I don't remember how many home runs the year before. You got some other guys back with Casey Cook, Honeycutt, and the transfer like D'Onofrio. Some really intriguing new guys. Carter French is back as well, but some new guys like Gavin Gallagher, Caleb Koss, and probably some others that I'm missing. I'm not going to go through the whole roster, but just figuring out who's going to play where is going to be the trick, because you want to have that dynamic offense, but that's not going to do any good if they can't defend. Because no matter what, it doesn't matter how much. You look at stats. If the team leads the ACC in hitting, but they're 8th, 9th, 10th in pitching, they're not going anywhere. It's just not going to happen. So that's probably what I'm most excited about our lineup. I feel like it can be a lineup that can score in different ways. We can hit the long ball, obviously, and we got power, but we got some speed. We got more speed. We have 3 guys potential that are absolute rabbits, and Honeycutt, D'Onofrio, and Madera. And then you add in some power in there and guys that have an idea of the zone, hopefully that can walk, equal to their strikeouts, but they can defend. And, with the new arms we're going to roll out there and the returning arms we're going to roll out there, we can't give teams extra outs.
Yeah. I tell people this all the time, and I've told you, and we've had conversations about it. I get entranced in conversations with you and people on your staff about the ordering of players in a lineup. Yeah. It's just like a chance to nerd out for me, right? It's like, well, why is he here? How do you view the 1 hole? How do you view the 5 hole? That sort of thing. We had a conversation. Mike Rooney was with me in Gravy, one of our more recent episodes, and Runes posed the question, and he was like, what do you think they do in the lineup with Vance this year? Are you leaning one way?
Well, with Madera is as much of a leadoff table setter as I've seen potentially in a while. Hard to strike out.
Which is Scott, I just want to point out, it's kind of wild that you're introducing someone new into that conversation, because when we talked about it, it was like, okay, Cook was pretty good in that role. They've got Vander Brake, who's a high average guy. So like the possibilities at the time when we had the conversation seemed endless to begin with for the leadoff spot. And now you're throwing somebody else into the fold.
And you never know. All of a sudden we could be leading off somebody like who led off for the Philly, Schwarber. Is that right?
Yeah, Kyle Schwarber. Yeah.
For all we know,
the most leadoff hitter.
I mean, one year we let off Reed Frunk here in 2007, and he didn't run, but he got on base and he hit doubles and home runs. So, it just depends. Yep. We let off Michael Bush in 19 and hit Sabato behind him. Because at the time, we just felt like that was the best thing, and Datras in 18. But I do feel like, with that speed, we just got to figure out who's going to be where. Madera is more like an Angel Zarate. That's kind of the comp I make. He's not going to hit 15 home runs. He can hit home runs, but he can hit. And he can run. He's faster than Angel, better base stealer. Angel was a good hitter in this league last couple of years. So Alex hasn't done it here, but he's shown that he's that's the coolest thing about baseball to me. Good baseball players are good baseball players. And he performed at an unbelievable high level at the Division III level for 4 years. First team All-American last 2 years, still a ton of bases, hit almost 450 plus. So, then we got the kid Anthony D'Onofrio, the transfer from Quinnipiac. He stole, I think, 30 bases and hit 18 home runs, 16 doubles. His game translates, and he can run. But he also has the power. So Vance and D'Onofrio have more power than Madera. So I would say if it was today, Madera would be the leading candidate to lead off. And then, you probably hit Vance in a 2-hole or like a 4-hole. Just depending. Could be in a 3-hole, but he's going to be in the top 5 most likely. And, D'Onofrio will be as well. So I am excited about I didn't feel like our lineup had enough left-handed hitting options last year. And I think that's important. So I do feel like we can balance that out a little bit more this season.
Yeah. Man, now you got me dreaming about Berto hitting in the leadoff spot and it working, right? And you guys putting together some magic with Osuna.
Yeah, well, Alberto would have to be like Schwarber. He would have to walk more because Schwarber, Alberto, he swings. So if all of a sudden Alberto's walking more and he strikes out, you can put him anywhere. And you got Parks Harbor, who's shown that he doesn't just have power. If you hit above 300 in that league, just like the ACC, like Parks has, we're really lucky to have him here. I thought he should have been drafted fairly high last year, but he wasn't. And he chose to come to UNC, so we've been lucky. So we got to figure out where he's going to hit the lineup as well, because I think he can drive in runs and I think he can hit the ball over the wall, but he's going to walk some more. So, it'll work itself out, and that's why we have a preseason, and it'll change a little bit throughout the season, I'm sure.
Yeah. You've mentioned it for Parks there and with another player that you feel lucky that this guy is on campus. I told you in the fall, I called Luke Stevenson's high school state championship series. Knowing where he was headed, who he was, I paid a little extra
where he
attention.
Hopefully was headed.
Yeah.
That was before the draft.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
So knowing where he was committed collegiately, I'll say it that way. What is it about him that caught your guy's eye? I mean, I think a lot of it's obvious, right? Like any program would love to have a kid like
Coach
him.
Coach Gaines, you got to give our coaches credit. They saw him early and they were like, we have to have this kid. And he was the first to commit in his class. I think he, were committed after Walker Jenkins. We were dreaming about that the other day. What if Walker would have made it to campus? What would our lineup been like? But I guess it was whatever, 6th pick. But Luke is the same. You don't want to put pressure on a kid. You don't want to ever crown kids. But Luke's special from the standpoint of to be as advanced defender as he is at his age with the arm strength he has. Usually it's one or the other if they make it to school, right? Like they can really hit and they've got a ways to go defensively as a catcher, or they're unbelievably good defensively, but the bat's got to come for them to end up being a high draft pick. Well, he's got a chance to hit and, really control the running game and manage your pitchers. So, and he's mature. He's physical. He knows how to run a pitching staff, and you don't get that a lot as a true freshman. He reminds me a lot of Chris Inetta, who we had here at that age. Just hard-nosed, tough, and not scared of the big moment. So we're just lucky that he's here. We're lucky that he valued coming to school. And I'm just thankful that he slept. Nobody took him too high. Because, you sweat that stuff, man. You have to have a little bit of luck to have a great team in college baseball from the standpoint of, kids get drafted and they sign professionally. And if you get lucky and they come to school, you got that combination of guys that are returning that have gotten better and a guy that had the chance to be a high draft pick and wouldn't even be at your school. So we're lucky. We're lucky he's here.
Let me pull it back another big picture. This one's going to be about recruiting. Scott, you talk about having a guy committed who's sort of on the cusp, right? Could go either way. Walker, look, you're a top 10 pick, go, right? No one is expecting that guy to beg that off and then go to school. With the shortened drafts in recent years, has that affected the way you guys recruit? Like, do you have to sort of strategically say, okay, we're going to try to get the best players possible who are not in that range?
Yeah, sometimes when you get them, they're not in that range yet. When Walker committed to us, he was young.
Right.
It was during COVID. I mean, I didn't even know who he was. He just showed up at camp. And then I figured out this dude, who he was quickly because he got in the cage. But nobody really knew about him. He worked his way into where he ended up getting drafted. So it depends, you know. But once that happens and you realize, hey, this kid's going to be a pretty high draft pick. For me, we're not committing any kids to the University of North Carolina if they're not serious about coming. You know, if a kid's going to sign, sometimes it doesn't always happen that way. You know, a kid tells you one thing and it doesn't always go as planned.
Yeah.
But our goal is to commit kids that, you know what, I'm going to the University of North Carolina oless it is just, I moved so high up. And that's why we had the class that we had, because a lot of these kids that, you know, Olin Johnson, DeCaro, Stevenson, even Walker. Walker was here in summer school. He was serious about coming to the University of North Carolina. I mean, he crushed it in the classroom in summer school. Our strength coach said he led over there like no other. And he ended up being too good and going too high. And it was still not as easy as a decision as you think. Walker loved it here, and he'll tell you that. But those are the type of kids we're wanting. And then, but with a kid like Walker Jenkins, you know, like you put him to the side and say, okay, chances of him stepping on campus and playing for us are slim. So we better go find another player similar. And then if he comes, you figure it out. Because you're sure not going to tell Walker Jenkins, hey, go somewhere else. I can tell you that.
No.
As you said, it's a good problem to have, you know.
Yeah.
You'd rather have too many good players and not enough good players. So the recruiting, you know, if you're in the North Carolinas or any of these schools where you got those guys that can do either, again, you have to have a little bit of luck, in my opinion. Like you gotta, because it's still hard to walk away from $1 million, $1.5 million, even $2 million. And, you know, if Andrew Miller hadn't done that, we might not have went that first year. If Dustin Ackley, Kyle Seeger. So you got a lot of guys that value coming to UNC, and that's how you recruit. You know, that's first. Like these guys are serious about coming, even though they're really good, and their dream is to be in the big leagues. But we're hoping they think the best way to fulfill that dream is going to school first.
Yeah, I think you guys do a great job of sort of aligning that on a year in, year out basis. We talked about Zach Gallen and his journey last time you and I spoke, and it was, you know, that's a guy who was before he was a North Carolina guy, he was a North Carolina guy. So that checks out all of that you're saying.
Yeah.
It's guys who like it there, like the school, like the program. They just, in some cases, might be a little too good, like Walker, and then they've got a tough but good decision to make.
Yeah, well, then you're battling, you know, if you get a kid off the portal or if you get a JUCO kid that's really good, you also, those guys, they might be older and they might have a chance to sign. So you don't really know until that draft happens what your team's going to be, basically. And then you still have to wait until that deadline because you're going to sweat that out a little bit too, you know, because all those guys were here in summer school. Folger Boaz as well, you know, guys that, you know, they're in class and I'm listening to the draft and I'm just praying that their name doesn't get picked, at, you know, really, really high. I mean, that's just the way it works. So, yeah. And then and if it does get picked, even if it's late, you know, does the team make a run at them because they couldn't sign the earlier guy? So that's just the life of being a baseball coach during that time. And that's just something, you know, that's going to happen. You deal with it. It's the same thing every single year.
Yeah. Talk me through the pitching. I think I don't think I'm saying anything that's like going to hurt feelings. That's been the sort of the most uncertain part of your team past couple of years.
Yeah,
right?
Of course, it wouldn't hurt feelings. You know, the first year in COVID, we just weren't good enough. Period. Austin Love put us on his back, and you know, guys in the postseason. We had some other guys that pitched really well for us too, but we just didn't have any depth. 2022, we really started figuring it out on the mound. Davis Palermo, you know, emerged as a legit closer. Gage Gillian really stepped up, and a transfer for Brandon Schaefer threw over 100 innings. And Carlson had a pretty solid year coming back off his injuries, as well as some others. Sean Rapp, you know, last year I knew how many innings we lost, even though the pitchers were ranked really high as far as like what came in. When you lose that many innings, being a pitching coach of 10 years, in my mind, I'm like, okay, and we lost Brandon Schaefer kind of at the end, which was a little bit unexpected. In the 18th round, Brandon's awesome. I'm going to support our kids if they decide to sign. That's what he decided to do. But we did think like, hey, we're probably going to get this kid back. And, he threw 100 whatever last year. He's going to be a year better. So that's kind of what we were missing, was that one guy that just like went out there on Friday night and set the tone. You have to have that guy, in my opinion. And then Knapp started kind of to emerge as that late. But just the overall depth, the roles, the guys work. We just didn't have enough bullets in the gun, as they say, on the mound last year. And this year I'm excited about it. We just have to figure out as a staff, who's going to win those starting jobs and then how we're going to manage the bullpen. But as you said, I do feel like it's going to be a good problem to have, because there are going to be some guys that may not have pitched in a while that we need to get in the game, that are going to get in the game, hopefully, and people are going to be like, whoa, why hadn't this guy pitched? And that's when you have a good pitching staff. We've had some staffs here where we might be up 10-2 in the 8th, and we throw a guy in there that's got 3 innings, but he's really good. So that's where you're trying to get. With that being said, when you have the young arms like we have, they're going to be thrown to the fire. We're going to throw them in there just like we threw Daniel Bard, Alex White, Ken Emanuel, and they're going to have to learn on the go, but they're that talented. So I'm excited about it. And we got guys back that could have signed. Jake Knapp, Matt Poston, Kyle Peterson, Dalton Pence couldn't have signed last year, but he missed his freshman year, which was a big blow for us. Came back last year, was still, learning, and now he's a legit arm. So we're excited about getting all these guys back too.
So I asked you about the batting order, and that seemed to be at least a little bit clearer. I would imagine the rotation and bullpen, all that's a bit murkier until you kind of see what you truly have.
Yeah, and in my mind, obviously, that's a great part of being a pitching coach so long. I'm probably going to think more on that line, in that mindset quite a bit, because I know the importance of it. So in my mind, I have a pretty good idea of how it will shake out, but you don't really know, because you don't know how guys are going to look when they get back compared to what they look like before they left. That's the great thing about having a deeper team. Guys, they know that they better work or they're in trouble. So, I think it's very competitive on both. I think the lineup's ultra competitive. There's you have in your mind what the lineup's going to be, but we also have guys competing to get in the lineup, especially that 7, 8, 9 type hole. I start with Jake Knapp. He's back. We started today. He's our Friday guy. He's a horse. I think he can throw 100+ innings. I think he can handle the workload. He's gotten better and better and better. And that's kind of been how his career's gone. And I really believe he's going to be rewarded for it, because he works his tail off and he's a leader. But he's also talented, and he's a sponge. He's coachable. Coach Gaines done a phenomenal job with him, and Jake's put in the work to get where he is. And then after that, I do feel good about that Friday guy. Like, I think Jake can go out there and be like, hey, I'm the Friday guy. And I'm going to go out there, and that's what I'm going to do. Now, he's being chased, and that's a good thing. We've got a group of these young guys, from Folger Boaz to Olin Johnson to Jason DeCaro and Boston Flannery, they're going to pitch. And, not all of them are going to start, because all of them can't start. And then you got Peterson, that's we worked as a starter the entire fall, and then two transfers. Shea Sprague from Elon, we shut down. He was their Friday guy 2 years in a row, lefty that can really pitch. And Ryan Fisher, Friday guy at New Jersey Tech for 2 or 3 years in a row, throwing over 100 innings. So we got a group of guys that are really battling for that. And we're returning some guys that have gotten better that were on last year's staff that really pitched in situations, Daron, that you would have rather not them had to, like Cam Padgett, Matty Mathias. I mean, they were literally in tight games all the time. That'll help them. Yeah, and Peterson and Poston. You got Poston at the bullpen. But, all that being said, I feel like we're going to be to figure out our starters. But I've never been a part of a team at UNC that isn't like really good, that doesn't have a guy where the game's over. And we just were missing that last year. And that had a little bit to do with the starting pitching, not giving us enough length. But if you can get a closer to emerge that, like, give me the ball, the last 3 outs, last 6 outs. So I feel really good about that in Dalton Pence. Now he'll be complemented by some other arms that we can use to get to Dalton Pence. And I've always, I've kind of always secretly wanted to have a left-handed closer. I haven't had that. Never coached a left-handed pitcher. Kane O'Brien a little bit, but we had to use him so much early in the game. And so right now, the season started today, Dalton Pence would be our closer. And if I made one mistake last year, I felt like he blew a save early in the season against East Carolina. And, it always starts with yourself, especially with me. I'm the head coach. And there's one thing I can go back, I would have just kept rolling him out there, because when he got back in there, he was good for us the rest of the year. He was phenomenal for us down the stretch. Looked as good as anybody in the league. Went to the Cape, got better. So I'm excited for Dalton, seeing him in that role. He's got it written all over him. And I hope it works out well for him and for us. Yeah,
no, that's fun to think about. Man, a lot of names that we saw a lot last year for better or worse during those performances. You mentioned Padgett in particular. It just kind of felt like, man, he just like couldn't get going because of the situations, but you could tell.
Yeah, he learned quickly. There. It's not easy.
Yeah,
in this league, as a true freshman, but he got some valuable experience.
Yeah, and again, that's there's value in that. He comes back as a sophomore, and in some cases, he's miles ahead of other sophomores because of the situations that he was put in last year. So I think the experience is nice. Boston Flannery, I had forgotten about, but you mentioned his name. I saw him on the USA Baseball circuit a little bit over the past couple of summers. That's a really nice piece to add to.
Athletic, bigger arms. Talent is talent, and if you feel like it's a little bit deeper, it's like, okay, and it takes some stress off your quote best guys. Like, instead of them throwing that extra inning, they're out. Or instead of them having to pitch Tuesday, Friday, Sunday, maybe they're just going Friday, Sunday, things like that, because it all adds up in the long course of the season. And I really like the culture of our pitching staff and the leadership and the toughness, and being a pitching coach so long, you have those years where you kind of know, like, okay, this year's going to be a little bit tougher. We lost a lot. I felt like that in 2010. I was like, man, this is going to be a tougher year. And then we added some pieces in 11, and Emmanuel and some other guys, but we had some of those guys returning, like a Michael Moore and those guys in 10 and Chris Munley, that they just kind of merged together. So I'm hopeful that will be the case with this staff. But Daron, things change. I would have sworn Michael Moore was a weekend starter, 6'4". That was just what he was. And then we took off in 11 because he was getting hit so hard, rolled his ankle, fielding the ball at Virginia Tech. So we moved him to the bullpen, and he became the league's best closer. I mean, he was lights out, and that team all of a sudden had a closer, and the game was over when we were ahead, and it was Michael Moore, and I would have never started the season saying this guy's our closer. So, I have been doing it long enough to know that, hey, there are going to be some moving parts. Things will change. I mean, for all I know, Dalton Pence will be pitching Saturday, and a freshman will be closing, like Trent Thornton did in 2013. We started Thornton midweek against Seton Hall, and his first ball he threw in college was hit down there on field hockey. And he still pitched great that day. I thought for sure, same thing as a starter. And the next thing you know, he's our closer, and we won 59 games. And we don't win 59 games if a guy like that doesn't do what he did. So that's what I'm excited about with this team, trying to figure that out with our other coaches. And the guys they'll figure it out for us as well. By their preseason, and then, in the season. You don't really know until that other uniform rolls in here. So that's what I'm excited about as well.
Yeah. My high school coach used to say all the time, it's a game of adjustments. And over time, I realized that's true for players. It's very true for coaches as well. So
no doubt.
Make adjustments. You guys over the years have been great at those adjustments and fitting pieces where they work best for your team. So I'm really excited to see how the pieces fit for your Heels this year. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we are too. Good schedule too. Tough. We always play a tough schedule, but that's a good thing. That's how you want it. And we're getting close. You finish basketball and you'll be calling baseball before you blink.
That's it. But in some cases, before I'm done calling basketball, I'm going to be calling baseball. So
yeah, 100%.
There's
no doubt.
There's going to be overlap. You know me, I can't wait for it to get here. So
yeah. Have you heard? The other thing I did want to mention too is we just finished our indoor facility, our renovation, which is phenomenal.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah. What can you tell us about it?
Man, let me tell you, we had a vision and it actually turned out almost exactly through the support of very generous supporters, that gave us the donations to be able to do this. And our indoor was always just cages. It's nice, but we redid the whole thing. I mean, complete facelift with in mind, we wanted a pitching specific area that was just for the development and the analytics and the numbers and the video. And we wanted it to be the best. We wanted to do it right, and we did it right. Everything's in there now. We've got all the technology. We've got the mound with the force plates built into it. We've got a wall that literally divides the hitting area from the pitching area. You don't even see the pitchers when they're over there throwing. And we're one of the few schools. We've had a couple. Bryce Wilson, who was committed to us, kid from Hillsboro, who's been in the big leagues quite a bit now in the big league with the Brewers. So we're really lucky to have what we have. He came in and got on it. And you're having this stuff not for show. You want it to help you win games, obviously, and that's part of the game now. We've Coach Howell, who's an unbelievable coach, has been on our staff since I became the head coach. Was a pitching coach at UNC Wilmington. Was a pitching coach at Georgia Tech. For us, he was pretty much anything, right? But now with so much going on, now he is just with the pitchers, and he is with Coach Gaines every single day, and he runs, our pitching performance center. He's in charge of all the data, all the analytics, and him and Coach Gaines working together, and that really helps to have somebody with you when you're managing 20 plus pitchers. So those two guys, they're pumped about what they have, and hopefully, when y'all come and do a game, you can get some video of it, or you'll see. We'll do a release before too long, but it's good to go, and our guys, starting tomorrow, our bullpens will be thrown on that bullpen until we move out, on the game film. And the hitting area too, we renovated it. Brand new cameras, Edgertronic cameras. We got hit tracks inside. It's really, really nice. So I'm excited for our players.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I might even have to come check that out before I've got a game there. Or
yeah. It's eye popping too. Like, we got it right. I mean, the graphics are awesome. They did a great job with it. And, I want to give my coaches credit too. And Dave Arendas, Carter Hicks, we worked hard on this thing, and we started it right at the end of the fall. And sure enough, we had a target date. Our guys they're already able to hit in there today if they want, but tomorrow when we start practice, it's fully functionable and we're ready to go. And we also renovated our outside bullpen. You'll see that, new track man mounted, covering both, expanding the bullpen, having the cameras permanently installed. So we can get that data down there and the video just like we can inside. The only thing that's not outside is the mound, where you get the feedback on your force and your strength and that type of thing. But really, really neat stuff.
Yeah, and super helpful for.
People that say, this, that, and analytics, like people that complain about NIL, you either can complain or do something about it. And, you got to adapt. And I've enjoyed that. None of this stuff was around when I was a pitching coach, not any of it. And, the fact that now it's here and it's part of the game, what are you going to do? Run away from it, or say hey, maybe this can help us get better? And that's the view that I've had and we've had. And same thing with NIL, it's part of what we're dealing with now. Let's try to have the best one. Let's try to have a UNC Baseball Collective. Let's try to continue to grow. And that's how we're always going to operate here. And I think that's important. But, you want everything at UNC to be the best for the players too. So when they walk in here, they know that, hey, there's nothing missing. If I want to get better, now it's up to me. All I have to do is be a guy that's disciplined and that's going to work my tail off, and most likely I'm going to improve. But these tools definitely help these kids do that now.
Yeah. Was I think I saw this right. This is the last thing for you. I think I saw this right on his Instagram. Was Mac Horvath there the other day? Did he get a chance to hit?
He's letting out the facility already. I'm going to have to bust his chops. I was up here the other night, too, trying to get stuff done. I hear this knock on my door, and his nickname's Donkey. And I'm like, who is that? And I'm like, I just yell out, who is that? And he's like, Donkey. And I forgot he was coming back in town. I didn't know he was getting back this early. He's going to train here until he reports to spring training. Yeah, man, golly, what a special kid. Obviously I'm going to miss his talent because he was a stud baseball player, but it's just cool that he's here because I still get to see him every day. Because our pro guys, a lot of them come here and train. So they get here early in the mornings and, they'll hang out a little bit, but we give them our facility, free reign of it, until from about 8 a.m. till noon, so they can get in what they need to get in. But him and Tomas Frick, they're staying, they rented a little, I think, a studio apartments. They were telling me about it. They said it's really teeny. They got one bed here and one bed here and a bathroom. They be at the stadium all the time. So it's good to have those guys back. It's a part of our program that I really enjoy.
Nice. What a luxury. Yeah, you mentioned Bryce, and that it just clicked in my mind. It was like, wait a minute, I got to ask because I saw Mac was there.
Man.
For what it's worth,
let everybody know about our facility before we release a video. Daggone, Mac.
No, for what it's worth, Scott, the photo that he posted, I believe, was looking out onto Boshamer Field. So I don't think he gave anything away.
Yeah, he was.
I just noticed he was there. So
I don't do really anything on the Instagram, so I wouldn't know. So thanks for telling me.
Yeah. Not trying to tattle, but I did see.
I'll mess with him today. He's down there hitting right now, I'm sure.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Go give him some grief. Scott, appreciate the time as always. Man, just awesome stuff as usual. I've got a strong appreciation for you and your place in that program and in our league, and looking forward to seeing your team. I'm sure at least a handful of times this year, and we'll talk again then. I know.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. We got our first pitch banquet this weekend. We got Syracuse and basketball. Our basketball team, we all pull so hard for each other here, and I'm fortunate to be close to Coach Davis. And it's UNC basketball season right now. We'll stay in the background. And we got to pull for our hoops team. Got to get them to the national championship. I can see it happening. They have a good team, man, and that is the definition of a team.
Yeah, what you and I talked before we started recording here. I think it is getting fewer and fewer in that sport, and maybe this applies to baseball too, that you have like a true core of guys who have just been there for several years, right? Everything gets jostled around so easily. So I think it's a huge advantage for Hubert's guys right now.
Yeah, and they got some good pieces in there too. So it's an exciting time. And thanks for having me. Thanks for all y'all do for,
of course,
college baseball. I've seen it grown, from checking box scores in the newspaper to what's out there now is phenomenal to me. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Happy to play a small part in the D1 baseball effect, as I will call it. But you're always in the foreground here. That's the thing, right? Like you guys, you mentioned being in the background to hoops. As far as we're concerned, this is front and center all the time. We love it, and we love providing that for you guys. So, Scott, appreciate it. Best of luck this year. I'm sure well talk again soon. But
thanks, Daron. I appreciate it, man. Travel safe and try to find you a hotel room with some more lights.
Yeah, we'll do. Thanks.
All right, buddy. Talk to you.
See ya. Appreciate you,
thanks
Scott.
for having me. Yep, good to see you.
Of course. Jody, thank you.
Good man. No problem. See you soon.
Cool.
Try to get a win in Temple there tomorrow night.
Yeah, let's try it. We'll see. I will do what I can.
Okay.